It's Monday afternoon. Who's ready for some liberal corruption? Yes, that is our theme today. That is our story. We're going to hit on 3 different stories of more stuff coming to the surface, which is perfect as we jump into a liberal leadership debate tonight. It is exciting to the most part because we're able to get more information, more tangibles to be able to link this party to. It's one thing to be like, yeah, they funneled all these contracts overseas. They took this liberal green slush fund. They did this. They did a little bit of move the shells around, and ta-da, here we are. It's hard when you're having conversations with people across the aisle, right? Because when you don't have tangibles, we're not able to have specific links to what's going on, which we know what's going on, but when you can't make the links, it makes it difficult. However, those links are starting to become more apparent, and it is very intriguing to watch it all unfold. This Liberal Party is the house of cards we've been talking about, the accident waiting to happen, and don't you know it, it will happen, and we will see it starting tonight, I'm sure, because yes, we're only going to see Freeland, we're only going to see Gold, we're only going to see whoever that other guy is, and we'll only see Carney. But I'm just waiting, because I know they're all on the same page. I'm not going to try and screw each other over too hard, but I'm sure one thing is going to come up, and Carney's going to fold like a cheap suit, like the accident waiting to happen. He is. But first, the first story we want to get into. It's a story that's been pervading on Instagram into TikTok today, and it's the fact of dark money funding an anti-Poilievre campaign. And it is interesting. The guy who brought it up on Instagram, I think is a fascinating find on his part. I appreciate all the work he did into it, and it is really intriguing to see all the money that's been funding this anti-Poilievre campaign as of late. This is the Instagram post in question. It was reposted by the real Sean Rickard, who wasn't the person who made the video. I can't seem to find the name of the individual who created it. However, he did a good job, and it's about a 7-minute long video. If you want to go, you can see the link right there. Go check it out for yourself. But he really breaks down what is happening with this entity that is a nonprofit that is incorporated, that is taking donations and funding attack ads on Poilievre. And some things he points out with it, right? He goes into first the fact that he looks at the registered office, he looks at the directors, he looks at the officers, and Ian Wayne is one of the directors who happens to be working for Monk & Associates, which is run by Kathleen Monk, who has some deep ties into the NDP, into media, and this, that, the other. So people are like, okay, that's interesting, this is happening. But the really intriguing part that's really catching a lot of people's eyes is the fact that this corporation, this nonprofit corporation, is dissolved. So by law, it cannot be taking donations. It cannot be taking any type of signing any contracts. It can't be taking any type of monetary value in, or they could get in some serious trouble for it, for being a dissolved nonprofit corporation. There's a couple of things that people are talking about. It's like, oh, that means they're breaking the law. It's tough times, which is true. The one thing you have to keep in mind, though, is it's not so black and white. Yes, you can. If like they've been doing, they've been clearly bringing in donations, which we'll show here later, how much they've been spending with those said donations. And doing so under a dissolved corporation can spell trouble. So this is the dissolved corporation. They're called Protecting Canada, and this is their website. And this is just kind of a sample of what they've been posting. And I'll just
Poilievre wants you to
play the first 5 seconds of it.
But his fix, it will leave you broke. Just take healthcare. He's pushing for American-style healthcare. The kind that...
You've been probably seeing these on your social media as of late. You've been probably seeing it in some of your YouTube ads. These are starting to pop up. These are what we're seeing, right? We have this Protecting Canada, which again, their business name is the Protecting Canada Project. They are actively paying for ad space. And how do we know this? Well, we can show you a little bit of truth right now for you. You can see right here, right, where they have very few subscribers, very few views. However, you do have these handful of videos that have 2 million, 2.1 million views, which is clear that that is ad spend videos. Because when you click on these videos, if it was actually organic, you would see massive amounts of engagement. You see it in our videos, right? You'll see a video at like 50,000 views. You'll probably see our engagement around 4,000 to 5,000 likes. Here you have something at 2 million views and it has 69 likes. That tells you everything you know. It's a paid ad. So they're funding this and clearly putting their money into this at this point in time with a dissolved corporation. So I go back to my original point where it's not so black and white, like they're being fraudulent, which can be seen that way. They could be slapped with fraud charges in the right situation, in the right case. However, if you're operating a dissolved corporation, especially if it's a nonprofit, yes, you can get a lot of trouble. Your bank can close your accounts. The CRA will come after your personal assets. So if you're the person, you're the officer, like in this case, it would be Ian Wayne. The CRA can now, what they would do is they see you've been collecting all this money, and with a dissolved corporation, they can now go after the officers and the directors for their personal assets. So things that they actually own, to make sure they pay the taxes that they are owed for the amount that they collected. Which again, if it's a nonprofit, technically there's nothing to pay because nonprofits are absolved from taxes. However, operating a dissolved nonprofit corporation, they can come after you for taxes. And so this is really what we're seeing. So it could be serious trouble if you're operating this. Not gonna lie, I'm not gonna downplay that. That could happen. However, what's most likely to happen, which they can do, is CRA is like, hey, you're operating this corporation. Either you pay us the taxes you owe right now and you cease operations of the corporation, or you can work to revive the corporation and just pay all the back taxes and things you owe on it. And then they go on their merry way, which is likely what will happen because this story will get bigger and they will have to start making sure their account is in good standing. But just to give you an idea, right now, this is their Facebook page, Protecting Canada. Again, I'm trying my best to kind of give them an overview of what the guy did for his video. Again, want to give all the credit to him for this because this is a good find. You have like 13 different users operating this account. You have 12 in Canada, 1 in the US. And if you go to the ad library, their current ads, right now they're running 12 ads right now, all active. And they all kind of are operating at different ad spend at the moment. Some being as high as $30,000, others being as low as $400. But if you combine at the moment, you're looking at about, right now, just an active ad spend, you're seeing a total of about $60,000 plus just an active ad spend right now by this organization, who's operating a dissolved corporation. And right now, the focus on this story is like, oh, it's dark money. We don't know where it's coming from. It's all from donations. They're spending upwards. If you look at the video, the gentleman specifies between Facebook and YouTube, he estimates that they are spending somewhere in between $5 to $6 million over the past 3 years on ad spend. So there is big money behind this to a degree, right? Because it's not like it's a political campaign. It's not like there's a maximum donation. Like, people can give as much as they so please. So who are the donors? Who is giving to this cause? The fact they're accepting this amount of money and it's flowing through this dissolved corporation, people should be asking questions about who's funding these anti-Poilievre campaigns. We know that Ian Wayne, who has been involved in the NDP party, works for Monk and Associates, who is run by Kathleen Monk at the top, who also has had connections to the NDP party. These are the questions and these are the issues that people have brought up and what this individual has brought up, which I thought was really interesting. So what people can get focused on is the fact that, oh, baby, what's going on? This is a kind of a seedy group. What's happening? And I did a little bit more digging and research on this and discovered that this story is not new. The part that is new is the fact that they're operating a dissolved corporation, which I think is an issue. But this came up back in October of last year. Toronto Star reported on this, says anonymously funded anti-Poilievre ad campaign has links to former Liberal and NDP staffers. A third-party group run by former NDP and Liberal staffers has launched an advertising campaign against Pierre Poilievre in an attempt to go dollar for dollar with the Conservatives on ad spend. The campaign comes as the prospect of a snap election grows and as Liberals gripe over what they see as slow, inadequate attempts to contrast the Conservative leader's record with the Liberal government through advertising. The Tories, flush with cash from record fundraising, spent $8.5 million to get their message out last year. More than 20 times as much as the governing Liberals, who spent more than $380,000 on advertising. Now, Protecting Canada, an anonymously funded group with ties to the NDP, Liberals, and major unions, says it wants to fill the vacuum and unite progressives to stand up to a conservative media machine that fuels hypocrisy. Our ambition is to match conservative infrastructure dollar for dollar and spend as much as it takes, said spokesperson Meghana Ramaswamy. But the financial backers of the group are shrouded in secrecy. Ramaswamy, the only public face of the group, did not answer questions about specific funders, only saying the group was backed by progressive individuals and organizations wanting to unite Canadians against Poilievre. So this is the machine that is actively trying to operate against Poilievre. Spending upwards of $5 to $6 million on ad spend. Trying to go dollar for dollar. That lingo sounds familiar, doesn't it? And people are wondering, who are the funders? Who is the big money behind it? And it was a good find. I will reiterate it. It was a good find on this guy's behalf to discover that the corporation who's operating this is dissolved, which is a very key factor, especially when you're dealing with that amount of money. It's a good thing to call out only because we know that if this was on the flip side, if there was some crazy conservative think tank that wanted to go dollar for dollar with Liberal ad spend and they are operating a dissolved corporation, we know that would be the front page of CBC, wouldn't it? That would be all the talk. People would be grilling Poilievre on it, grilling his shadow cabinet. It will be grilling everybody on the conservative side about it. However, I'll be curious to see how long this goes for. How long will it take for anyone to question it, if at all? And because we had already talked about it, the Star reported on this back in October. Nothing about it. No one's asked questions about it. But now here we are. We have some great citizen journalism happening, calling out the BS, calling out the hypocrisy, and calling out the corruption. We'll see if CBC, CTV, Global Mail make any moves on this story. We'll be interested to see. But that's corruption number one. Story number two we want to jump into. This came off hot off the press last night. Rick Perkins posting this. Liberal Green Slush Fund head supports Carney to the max. The head of Trudeau's $1 billion. I gotta admit, Ricky Perk, you're the man. You are writing as if you are running a YouTube channel. Way to be. To the max in all caps. I gotta give respect where it's due. The head of Trudeau's $1 billion Liberals Green Slush Fund, where Canada's Auditor General found almost $400 million of your money Liberal insiders funneled to their own companies, gave the maximum donation under law to carbon tax Carney, just like Justin. And there she is, Annette Virchison, who donated the max amount, $1,750. Again, no rules broken, but no one asking questions about this, though, aside from the Conservative Party themselves. If Carney's so different and he wants to weed and change the Liberal Party from what it's been and weed out the corruption that has been in there and bring it back to the center, the fact he's accepting donations from Annette, who was responsible for this story, board president of Federal Green Fund resigns amid conflict of interest probe. Ethics Commissioner investigating payment of more than $200,000 to firm run by Annette Virchison. The president of the board of directors of a federal foundation for green technology is leaving a few days after an announcement that she is the subject of an investigation by the Ethics Commissioner. Appointed by the Liberal government to head the Sustainable Development of Technologies Canada in 2019, Annette Virchison told Canadian Federal Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry, François-Philippe Champagne, she will be leaving December 1st. Virchison was heavily criticized by MPs for all political parties after confirming she had participated in the approval of a payment of more than $200,000 in subsidies to a private firm that she runs. So not only did, again, as Rick Perkins said here, help funnel $400 million out of our country to these private interests and Liberal insiders. $200,000 of that went directly to her company that she was running. Again, this is the issue. If the Liberals are so interested in trying to be different and trying to change, you have this woman giving max donations to Mark Carney's campaign. The same old Liberals, folks. People who have been corrupt and caught in corruption for the past 10 years are still supporting the current favorite in this leadership race. That tells you everything you need to know right there, right? Last but not least, this just dropped about an hour ago. Michael Barrett dropping breaking news. Access to information documents reveal the RCMP opened an investigation into the Liberal government's We Charity scandal. We Charity scandal. Trudeau gave We Charity a $900 million contract. Catch that, $900 million, just shy of $1 billion. After we paid the Trudeau family almost $300,000 in speaking fees and over $200,000 in travel expenses. Trudeau's finance minister accepted $41,000 in free travel paid by We, was forced to resign and found guilty of breaking ethics laws. The saga led to Trudeau's first prorogation of Parliament 24 hours before the Ethics Committee was supposed to receive his family's public speaking contracts. The RCMP interviewed Trudeau Minister Bardish Chagar, Trudeau's Director of Policy, freelance senior advisor, senior public servants. We Charity founders Craig and Mark Kielberger did not cooperate with the investigation and dodged interviews with the RCMP. But just like the SNC affair, the RCMP gave Trudeau a pass, never even asked for him for an interview, and didn't file charges. Canadians are tired of the RCMP routinely opening up files into Liberals. We Charity, SNC, Arrive Scam, Green Slush Fund, enough. Only common sense conservatives can clean up Liberal corruption, and here's the document in question. On April 22nd, 2020, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced the creation of the Canada Student Service Grant, which had for goal to assist students in the light of the COVID-19 pandemic. On June 25th, 2020, the government announced that We Charity would be administrating the $912 million CSSG program. Subsequently, We Charity entered a sole source contribution agreement with the Government of Canada. Shortly after the announcement, several media outlets started reporting personal ties between We Charity, Prime Minister Trudeau, Minister Morneau, and members of their families. On July 3rd, 2020, given the intense media scrutiny and appearances of conflicts of interest, We Charity and the Government of Canada mutually agreed to part ways as it relates to the administration of the CSSG. Again, the details of the story are not new. We knew this happened back in 2020. What's new is the fact we are now finding out the RCMP opened up an investigation and did nothing with it. And you wonder why people are losing faith in Canada. You wonder why the narrative is continuing that Canada is broken. Because the institutions we're supposed to trust in are actively not doing their job, and we don't look any better than some of the countries that we think we're quote unquote better than. The fact that the RCMP is just turning a blind eye to every wrongdoing this Trudeau Liberal government has done is causing for regular Canadians to be scratching their head wondering, what the heck are you doing? And do not be surprised when the day comes, if it hasn't already begun, when people are chanting defund the RCMP, disband the RCMP, start it over. What we're seeing down in the United States with the FBI and the CIA and people lacking trust in those institutions. Well, the RCMP has proven that they are not doing their job, not providing service to taxpayers, and clearly are very partisan in what cases they take on. That is where we're at. That is what's happening. And if you're interested, join myself and Reg tonight. We'll be hosting and watching and covering the Liberal leadership debates tonight. It'll be very interesting. We'll be over at live on YouTube, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Check us out then. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out.